Hello YouTube, iFixItAll here, Team iFixItAll. Yesterday I uploaded a video about testing spark plugs and wires and the distributor cap, and this guy here was not reading a consistent resistivity from here to here. It was all over the map. It's anywhere from 50 ohms to 350,000 ohms and so on and so forth, and the new cap was reading about 7 ohms while I was attached to the coil terminal point where the coil hooks up, and measuring to this button while the button was depressed, and I was wiggle testing to check for intermittent connections. The new cap performed a lot better. Let me turn this other light on. Might help a little bit. I've been studying the cap here to try to figure out how I'm going to attempt to fix that. Did you know these things are like almost 50 bucks now? It's a 302 distributor cap. Just the cap. I've got a few spares, and I'll break the news to you. I've already figured out how to get in this. I didn't want to waste a lot of video time, so I determined that the best way to go about it is to heat this up and then use a pair of pliers and simply, move the camera again. While it's hot, gently pull this post out and it will reveal the pieces parts. So let's get on with it. Just going to warm this up. I really don't know when to stop, so I'll just use my instincts. Let's see if that's good enough. Well, yep, something's giving up the juice there, so let me just keep heating. What I'm doing is that metal, oh, there we go. It's ready. It started coming out on its own. There's that. Let me push everything out. Okay, everything fell out. Good. We are clear. Nothing in there. There's the post. It's texturized, ribbed for when the plastic is probably some machine probably comes along and warms this up and crimps it as these are dropped in. Let that cool down for a second. Let's take a look at the parts. We have the button, right there, just as I suspected. There would be a spring. Right off the bat, I see I wish I would have been able to track which direction this thing fell out. I think I have plastic shmoo on one end. I'm going to see if I can just show you this on this punch. I don't like that. Let me do something different. Maybe I can do this. Here be a stick pin. There you go. Do something white background might help. Because that's the part I believe is causing the chaos. Is this spring. See the windings in the center? It's really odd for me to see a spring done like that. I'm not sure what's going on. So those are the three parts involved in giving me those erratic readings. But I don't see anything broken. But I did mention earlier that I had already dissected another older distributor cap. And here it is. There's the post. Right there. There's the cap that we're dinking with right now. This is a spare cap assembly right here. So I've got this post. It's got the shmoo on it from the plastic heating up. But that's the working end because it's obviously having that spring vertically spinning on it. Here is the spring itself. Notice in the center, the spring is not wound up, or it's not real tight in the center. This is from the spare, and here's the button from the spare. Again, the most important elements are going to be these surfaces. This is the surface that faces the spring. And there's the part that faces the rotor button. That does that. So the lineup is like so. You have the button and the spring and the post. And when it's all together in the cap, this spring is depressed down probably 50, 60, 70% compressed, depending on the overall distance or the real estate inside there, whatever that length of this tube is. We won't get into that. But that's the lineup of how things assemble. This part is able to spin freely against the base of the spring. This base of the spring touches this post, and this post I got this backwards. And this post accepts your spark plug coil wire. All these parts are from a known good spare I had. And it must be a pretty old one because it's actually stamped made in USA. It feels a little heavier than this one. Alright, so the big difference I see here is the spring itself appears to be somewhat different because of its turns are more compact in the center. So what I'm going to do is read the resistance of all three parts that came out of this cap. Let me do that. I don't know what this is going to be. Here's the post. Get a good contact. That's 0.2 ohms. Here's something about multimeters. When you are on resistance check, before you ever start taking measurements, you got to find out, since none of us send our equipment off once a year to get it calibrated, unless we're in a laboratory condition, what we need to know is what is the baseline of the multimeter. How much is it off by, or what is the initial point of measurement without any kind of device there? So I'm going to this is basically checking the meter to, if it was an analog meter, you would zero it out by touching your two leads together. But this right here, okay, so if I was reading like 2.5 ohms and I knew these meter leads were brand damn new, I would just suck it up and say, okay, whatever I read, I got to shave off 2 or so ohms, and that's my real reading. But here it's 0.2. 0.2 means 0. I bet if I bought a new set of meter leads, that would suddenly go from 0.2 to 0. So right now, when I read this and it says 0.2, that's a chunk of metal. It's obviously 0 ohms of resistance. That's okay so far. Let's check the little button that right here. Try to get a good contact. Press on this side. Heh. Harder than it looks. All right, so it's getting down to a reasonable level. I'm wiggle testing too. I'm moving my meter lead around. I'm trying to really instigate if there's a crack in this part to cause the meter to jump around. But it's acting like a perfectly good button. It almost resembles the ohmic value that we documented on our brand new distributor cap, which was 7 ohms that I documented inside the cap. So it's likely that this part, whatever it's made of, let me see if it writes. Yeah, it does write. So it's carbon. Check it out. Yeah, it's like graphite or whatever it is, it leaves a mark. That might be interestingly useful for something. Alright, and now let's check the spring. This is going to be fun. Let me compare something. Yeah. Something has gotten hot. Let's see if I can even show that. And there's the old spring, and there's the new spring. The amount of corrosion, I call this new, but let's call that cap right there my spare known good. And let's call this one, that cap, and its affiliated parts, the one that was failing. So this spring is from my known good cap, and this one is from the one that's failing. There's a significant amount of corrosion on the failing one. And this one, this spring looks very good. This spring right here from my spare is looking really good. Alright, let me take a resistance reading. Put that over there. I don't know what this will read. I don't even know if I can make a good connection with the corrosion and everything else. The way I'm measuring it isn't fair either, because I'm measuring from an area that the spring has never engaged before as far as friction, because its sole purpose in life is to sit up in that hole and on top of this piece of graphite material, and that's where I should be getting the resistance reading from. I'll attempt it. I'll come in from the sides. I don't think I'll have enough pressure though. The spring is hard to manage. Let me compress it. Boing! I knew that was happening. I saw that coming a mile away. It'll probably happen again. One point. Let me see if I can hold this here and wiggle test it. That's starting to look like the readings we were getting yesterday. I'm curious on something. So this is my old cap, or the failing cap with its parts. Let's see what the known good spare cap reads like when I treat it the same way. Get it in there and bind and compress it. I've got it really compressed too. But I'm also moving it around a whole lot. Let's see if I can zoom you in on the work area I'm at. Hopefully I can stay right where I'm at here. This is the known good spare. Got it kind of compressed, simulating it being installed. What I'm doing is staring at the multimeter and seeing if a humongous, goodness gracious. I need to adjust the spring here. There we go. I'm trying to see if a gross amount of difference appears. There's some crazy dogs way over the mountain. How about this? How about if after I wiggle it, does it return back to around 1, 2, or 3 ohms, or 4 or 5, somewhere around 5? I move it around, and that's saying 29,000. .4, 8.1, 2.9, 3.4 ohms. Alright, I'll put that spring back with my known good spare, and I'll grab the spring out of the one that's failing. I'll get her trapped in here between my 2 meter leads, squish it together, check on you all and see if you're still in frame. You are. So that's given me, oh, you blast. Okay, come on. Calm brushed. Oh my goodness. Alright, that's good enough right there. That's saying like 700,000 ohms. Wiggle it. Try to get something low. There's 1.2. 2. 1.7. 27. 30, 40, 13, 7, 8,000. So I'm going to pause video. I have an idea. Because I'm still wanting to know what failed where. I cannot explain why the windings in the center here seem to be grouped tighter, unless something got really hot. But I have an idea. I'm going to sandpaper the ends off, because I know that's the part of the spring that's in the game for handing off current flow from the distributor post to the distributor button. Hang tight. I'm going to sandpaper this spring on this end and that end. Find a piece of paper that's suitable. Hang tight. I've got some 600 grit here. Shiny as can be. Flip it over. I'm raising it up, looking at it through a magnifying glass. Shiny as can be. Let us check again. See if we are in frame together. We barely are. Let me just scoot over this way some. It'll work. Maybe you can see what I'm doing. Compress it. And wiggle test. Oh, would you look at that? I can't even make it fluctuate. What did I just discover? Tell you what, if you know any car people or engine people or mechanics, share this video. Because I'm about to go down a rabbit hole that I've never been before. God, this is like trying to fix a fuse. Let's don't get on that topic because there are repairable fuses out there. And you can actually replace the element. Having trouble keeping my meter leads at the right angle to trap this spring in my thing. I'm borderline whispering too. Turn here so y'all can see better. See what I'm doing. Gosh, there's hardly no fluctuation. It's staying right around 1.9 ohms, 1 ohm. I'm moving the hell out of that little spring. Hang tight. So this is my old failed one. That's my known good spare. This is my known good spare. Let's see if I can get that spring and the known good spare to act. Renormalize it. Let's make it new again. Let's fix that. Come on out here. God, half an hour video on a stupid distributor cap. I'm gonna scrape it. I'm cleaning corrosion. What was the root cause of this? Corrosion. Looking mighty good. This was my known good spare, and it had some degree of fluctuation, but it was not by any stretch of the imagination acting as poorly as the failed distributor cap. Let's see if I improved anything. Come back to me. Are you in frame? Yes, you are. I can move over a little bit. Compress you. Measure. Get my fingers out of the way. God, this is difficult. Dang it. How do I do that? I need to be touching the ends because that's the way it's installed. And that's the way it lives its life. Oh, you blinking... Minor inconveniences. I need to shim the back side of my meter leads with something. It's getting frustrating. Maybe a paint stick will work. Now I think you guys know the problem I was having. Oh, it's so much better. Initial reading is 1.4 ohms. Wiggle testing. It's fixed. It's trying to go boing. It's trying to leap out of there. No thing wrong. Okay. Hang tight. So what I think should happen is I should reassemble everything. That's this. Yeah, okay. So this is how I would now reassemble the distributor cap. Does anybody rebuild distributor caps? Am I the only one on planet Earth doing this right now? Does that make it stupid? I actually would have said yeah, because it wasn't just a short bit ago. I don't know what happened other than all the crazy crap going on with the supply chain, this fictitious induced supply chain crap going on. There's a piece of Durbus in there. If I can clear it with a chainsaw file. I sure can. I was surprised to find out that these were 50 bucks. I'm like, oh, what? They used to be like $8.99. $8.99 to $11.99. So what I would do is tweak the button a little bit. Maybe lightly sandpaper this. There ain't no maybe to it, I just did it. Yeah, just very lightly. Drop that in the Holby in its correct orientation. And there it is. Perhaps I might feel benevolent to try to stretch the spring out a little bit, which I feel like that's a good idea, to make it a smidge longer. And now I need to compare it to something. This is about the same springiness as an ink pen spring. I didn't get it longer. Why am I doing this? I don't know. I feel compelled to. There, that's probably like 3 or 4 or 5 thousandths longer, but that's going to offer more spring tension-ish. Drop the spring in, and then I can drop this in. It's actually not going to be all that hard to reseal all this back up. I would reheat this, press it in, and let it cool off. I might accompany it with a little bit of JB Weld. I would heat this up. I would have JB Weld sitting right here, and I would push this into the plastic all the way down to where it's flush. The JB Weld would re-glue it and also seal it. That looks reasonable. That's a distributor cap can be repaired. Another thing you would have to do is, with your fine grit sandpaper, get rid of all of these. I might as well take my stuff out of here. Those parts. If you can see, remember we said the rotor button lives its life arcing to those posts. It's the best way for you to see that. As it spins around, it lightning arcs to these posts. And as a result of all of those arc jumps, a certain amount of the metal, this aluminum, is compromised, and craters are created, and divots and deposits are left behind. You have to clean up your contacts. And if this thing doesn't have any cracks in it, then it passes a visual inspection, and you don't have continuity from any post to another post. Continuity is 0 ohms, like a loop where you get resistance from one post to the other. It's highly unlikely in electrical contacts separated by this much of a distance, but there is something called carbon tracing, carbon traces, where when there's a lot of electrical arcing going on, the arcing can leave blast deposits. Let's say there was a terminal right here next to this one. The carbon deposits could become piled up and allow continuity or have resistance from one terminal to the next. It's called a carbon trace. But if none of your terminals are reading any resistance from one to the other anywhere, and I just successfully got rid of the problem, the thing that was causing the problem, I got rid of that symptom, then this is money saved. I think any smart person from here on out can literally just drop this in, heat this up, and grab it with pliers, and have a little JB Weld waiting right there, and push it back in and hold it till it cools a little. Then you'll be golden. I think it'll be like a new cap again. Alright, guys. I'm calling it fixed because we just witnessed the repair occur. We found the probable fault. We found the fault. We had probable faults, and we narrowed it down to the root cause of the part. which generally, like normal, it's either most of the time your failures on different things are somehow directly related to when the human hand gets involved or the weakest link. In this case, it's a little dinky spring that's a weakest link. Take her easy, and I'll see you later.